Hello, this is Jenna D Scott, your futuristic tax coach, and today I'm going to read this article, What If You Don't Actually Owe As Much in Taxes as You Thought? And before I get going, I'd like to let you know that if for some reason my voice isn't pleasing to you, then I have also produced this video being narrated by AI, which is also in the same playlist. So feel free to access that if you would prefer a more uniform voice. Let's begin. What if you don't actually owe as much in taxes as you thought? Read this. It all starts with an in-depth analysis of the income tax and what it really is. Part 1. Income tax is an excise tax. Did you know that income tax isn't just a tax on everything you make? It's actually an excise tax, a type of tax that only applies when certain things happen. Think of it like a tax on a special event, like buying a luxury item or using a government privilege. Some people think the 16th Amendment changed everything about taxes, but that's not true. The Supreme Court has confirmed over and over and over that income tax is an excise tax, meaning it's not a direct tax on people just because they exist. Instead, it applies only in specific situations. Here's what the Supreme Court said in Brushaber v. Union Pacific Railroad Company, 240 U.S. 1 in 1916. Taxation on income is, in its nature, an excise, entitled to be enforced as such. This means that income tax is not just a tax on all money you earn. Newsflash. Instead, it's a tax that applies only when certain conditions are met. If Congress tried to tax everyone's earnings directly, that would go against the Constitution. The court explained in Stanton v. Baltic Mining Company, 240 U.S. 103, also 1916. By the Brushaber ruling, it was settled that the provisions of the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation, but simply prohibited the previous complete and plenary power of income taxation possessed by Congress from the beginning from being taken out of the category of indirect taxation to which it inherently belonged. So, what does all of this legal talk mean? Simply put, income tax is an excise tax, not a general tax on everything you make. The government can't just tax all income however it wants. There are specific rules about what can and can't be taxed under income tax laws. Part 2. Income tax only applies to certain activities. Now that we know income tax is an excise tax, let's talk about when it actually applies. For a tax to be legal, it has to be tied to some kind of privilege or special activity. That means the government can't just tax you for earning money through ordinary work. Instead, income tax only applies to earnings connected to certain privileges granted by the government. The Supreme Court made this clear in Flint versus Stone Tracy Company, 220 U.S. 107 in 1911. The requirement to pay excise taxes involves the exercise of privileges. This means if you're engaging in a government-granted privilege, the government can tax that activity. But if you're just earning a living through your own efforts, that is a different story. Even earlier, Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust Company, 157 U.S. 429 in 1895, explained what a direct tax is. The most generally received opinion, however, is that by direct taxes in the Constitution, those are meant which are raised on the capital or revenue of the people. In other words, the government can't impose a direct tax on your earnings unless it follows the strict rule of apportionment, meaning the tax must be evenly divided among the states. The 16th Amendment did not change this. It just allowed Congress to tax certain kinds of income without apportionment. But it didn't create a brand new type of tax. Part 3. The Constitution protects against unfair taxes. The Constitution has rules about taxes to make sure the government doesn't overstep its power. One of those rules is in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4 of the U.S. Constitution, which says, "No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken." This means that the government can't just put a tax on every person unless they divide it fairly among the states. Since income tax is not a direct tax, it has to follow the rules for excise taxes, meaning it can only apply in certain situations. Unfortunately, over time, some government officials and courts have misinterpreted what the Brushaber case actually said. For example, in United States versus Francisco, 614 F.2D 617, 619, 8th Circuit, 1980, the court falsely claimed the income tax is a direct tax. So that's a lower court ruling. That's not the Supreme Court. This completely contradicts what the Supreme Court actually said. Even the IRS has spread misinformation about the nature of income tax, wrongly stating that the 16th Amendment allows a direct tax on income. But as we have seen in this short little article, this is not true. And I always recommend that you continue to further your due diligence, or you could book a consultation with yours truly if you would like to get more into this and see how it might apply to your situation. What can you do? Now that you know the truth, you have the power to make sure the IRS processes your taxes correctly. Many people have already used this knowledge to file their tax returns the right way, based on what the law actually says. Want to learn more? You can apply to work with us to reassess your taxes, possibly recover money that you've overpaid, even if it's 3 years back, sometimes more, and even reduce or eliminate unnecessary tax bills. Also, as I said, it's not here, but you can go ahead and book a consultation using the QR code that you see here on your screen right now, or going to this link, bit.ly/tax-trust-coach. And you can also sign up for our tax bulletin to receive updates and keep yourself informed. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, goodbye.